Hi, and welcome to the Brisbane Professionals Podcast. This is a podcast brought to you by SMS Law, going through the legal secrets that will benefit you and your clients, as well as having a little bit of fun as we go. This podcast is designed to educate you on, number one, complicated legal terms that we will explain in an easy to understand manner. Two, to understand why you do things from a legal perspective in your business. And three, to help you develop a plan for the future success of your business. Our mission is to help empower small to medium-sized businesses around the world to get access to legal advice so that they can help build their communities and make the world a better place. Did you know that any business owner is on average 7 months away from losing everything? That is the average time that it takes from a successful business to fold when an aspect of their business is not set up correctly. This podcast is all about empowering you and your business with knowledge and tools to ensure that that doesn't happen to you or to your clients. Let's begin, shall we?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Brisbane Professional Podcast, brought to you by SMS Law. I am your host for today's show, Craig Mason from SMS Law. This is one of our special guest shows that we try to do once a month or so, and it's still within our focus, which is all about real estate, the real estate market, investing in property, and it's targeted towards our professionals that are listening and their advisors about using property to build wealth and hopefully intergenerational wealth for the future. So we've got on today who you could see on the screen if you're watching. Otherwise, if you are listening to the podcast, then the person will start talking shortly, and you'll be able to, and he'll explain exactly who he is and what he's got to talk about on today's show. So the gentleman who's kindly come on today, and we thank him for that, is Omar Mohamed. So he's the Brisbane Buyers Agent at the Property Buyer Team. So as the title describes, he's talking about Brisbane, and he's a buyer's agent. So basically the topic for today's show is finding the right buyer's agent and what's the sort of things that you need to know. So Omar,
Hello, Craig.
hello, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate you giving up your time today to share some really important things with our audience. So I know a bit about you. I've spoken to you a few times. We're in a group together, and we've discussed various things. But if obviously our audience has no idea, so could you just give us some background of what you're doing now, how you even got into the particular industry, and what's the sort of areas that you're specialising in?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Craig. So I am a Brisbane-based buyer's agent working for the Property Buyer team. Property Buyer is a 20-year plus buyer's agency that's in a number of different states. We've got a team on the Gold Coast. We've got people on the Sunshine Coast, Sydney, especially one of the hottest markets in that eastern suburbs of Sydney. Melbourne. So we're quite a large team with quite diverse backgrounds and experience. For me, I got into this because I was an investor. I loved to buy property. I enjoyed looking at property, sourcing property for myself and for family members. Both my parents and family members, brothers and sisters, have all got portfolios and things. So I've kind of helped them in that sense. And I essentially have if I go back a few years, I worked for a major travel company for 17 years, managing their vendors, supplier relationships, account management, contracts, etc. So I have the negotiation background, the account management, client management background, and I wanted to get into property purely because of, one, my genuine interest in wanting to invest myself, and two, from a position of wanting to help people secure the right investment, help people understand why one property is better than the other, why you would go one area over another, and actually guide people to make the right investments for them. The same investment doesn't work for every single person. People have different motives, different financial positions, different goals that they're trying to achieve. And so for me, it was from a place of wanting to help people to secure their ideal investments, homes, etc.
Excellent. And so, a buyer's agent, what specifically are the services that a buyer's agent should be providing?
Yep. So buyer's agents generally, all buyer's agents will do the full service for you. So that is from sourcing the property to negotiating on the property for you, running through the due diligence process, and essentially hand-holding the client all the way through to settlement, making sure that they are ticking all the right boxes and ensure that the whole process goes as smoothly as possible. So that service works for a lot of our busier clients, young professionals, people that just don't have the time, aren't able to go and inspect. Most buyers agents will inspect 30 to 50 properties a week. So there are clients out there that don't have that time, but work full time, and they need the weekends to be able to do that. Now, that may not work for every single client. So there are other services that buyers agents do. One of them is pure auction bidding. So if someone is wanting to purchase a property, needs just someone to help them appraise the property and come up with a strategy to go and get that property at an auction. So there's an auction bidding service that buyers agents will do. But as well as that, you've also got appraise and negotiate. So if a client genuinely enjoys looking at property but doesn't want to go negotiating with a real estate agent, they don't feel comfortable in that process, and they don't understand what the walkaway point is for that property, where the value sits, so we come up with a strategy for them and then go and negotiate on that property on their behalf. So there are a number of different services that we do, depending on our clients' needs.
It's funny with buying property that they're about to spend a large amount of money, probably more money than they're ever likely to ever spend again, other than by buying another property. And so it's quite a serious thing, and you want to make sure that what you're about to spend the money on is something that you're getting what you're paying for, and that's where I think a buyer's agent proves their worth well and truly is in the initial stages, looking at the property, finding those sorts of things before anyone else does, and then getting a good price and then maximizing the return on it. So it's a pretty important role, and I think it's something that's, more than I, but starting to become a bit more as a go-to rather than traditionally just having a selling agent. So what's the sort of things when our audience are looking at engaging with a buyer's agent? How can you tell, that you're going to get what you need from a buyer's agent? Yeah, what's the things to look out for?
Yeah, there are some really important things to look out for. So when dealing, because buyer's agents are growing, there are a lot of independent buyer's agents out there. There's whether they're fully accredited or not. So obviously all buyer's agents need to have their real estate licenses, but also, there are other courses and things that you could do to help, service your clients the best way that you can. So when speaking to a buyer's agent, and you'll meet a number of them out there, first thing is just to ask for their accreditation. Are they licensed? What do they have in place? Do your research on their business. Understand how that business operates. Look at the business's website. Look at the business's social media, and make sure that you feel comfortable. Because as you mentioned, it's a large investment. You're investing quite a bit of money, whether it's your primary residence or an investment, that you're putting a lot of money into it. So you want to make sure that you're getting what you pay for. The third thing is, one of the big things that I say to people is make sure that buyer's agent is REBA accredited. So REBA is the governing body for buyer's agents. They have a set criteria that they put in place, and make sure that their buyer's agents that are part of REBA are working to a certain standard. They're ethical, they operate in a certain way to make sure that the clients are getting the best service that they can. So make sure that you do ask, are they REBA accredited? Are they part of REBA? And REBA, for those that don't know, stands for Real Estate Buyers Agent Association. So that's the governing body for buyers agents. The next piece is understanding their looking at their results. So ask them, with the areas that you're looking at, what have they purchased? How many have they purchased? Can they give you some client testimonials? So just to understand, the results that they've had recently, because some buyers agents may not obviously be as prominent in a certain area as others. So just make sure that they are the expert in the area that you're wanting. And then the final piece is just make sure that you feel comfortable. You feel comfortable around the person that is going to help you with your biggest investment. So genuinely that you can, that you feel like you can trust them, you feel like you can ask them anything, that you're not, that you can call them up when you need them, and essentially you're not inconveniencing them, because there are buyers agents out there that can take on too many clients and not be able to be as readily available to their clients as possible. So just make sure that you get the right feel, and essentially in the end, it is, there are those that obviously charge quite low fees, and it's a volume thing for them. So obviously you're going to be a number as part of what they take on. And then there are others that are in that top end that are more niche and will only take on a handful of clients at a time. Yep. So just make sure that you just understand who you're dealing with.
Yeah, and it's, it's the team, isn't it? You've got a team.
Yeah.
When you're engaging with the buyer's agent, they're part of your team for the investment.
Exactly.
And using it for that reason, along with all your other advisors. So obviously there's a little bit been going on in the property industry over the last couple of years, and going into the next 12 months, I'd say there's going to be even more. But how did you see the industry change significantly, or how did it change due to the pandemic? So going back to, I don't know, whenever that was, 2020, I guess. What were the sort of things that changed, and are they still there, or are they starting to get back to a bit more normality?
Yeah, we saw at the obviously at the beginning of the whole COVID cycle that a lot of experts were coming out saying that the market's going to crash. There's a bit of doom and gloom. No one could have really foreseen what was going to happen. And through that COVID period, some properties doubled in value. We had some substantial growth in certain areas. Essentially, for me around Brisbane, I was speaking to agents who, at the time, were listing properties and essentially weren't even making it to that first open. The demand was so high that properties were just selling so quickly and moving so quickly. So clients were coming to us because they were missing out on properties. They were getting challenged and things were just moving so quickly, and properties were going above price guides because agents weren't able to understand. They knew what the value of the property was at that time, but they didn't understand, what the demand was going to be like. So it was hard for them to forecast what price point. So they were, we then saw the start of the properties being listed without prices, because agents just weren't able to. They would pitch for the business, their vendor, to say, I think I can get you this, but really they were probably able to get a lot more because they just didn't know what the demand was going to be like or where that was going to sit. So we saw what the experts call FOMO last year, through that COVID period, and it was manic. You would go to inspections and they would be 50 people already lined up. You'd be at an auction and you're bidding against 30 other people, and it was just crazy. You thought a property was worth X amount and it was going hundreds of thousands more than where it really should have sold for. And it was just driven by, the fear of missing out, people wanting to get into the market, and then a lot of people had obviously additional funds. People weren't traveling as much anymore, spending as much. So they were, it seemed like the right investment to make for a lot of people. Kind of fast forward now to this year, and what we're noticing is that's changed. So the number of buyers have actually dropped. The listings are still low, so listings haven't really increased. There is obviously there is a little bit more, but it hasn't really increased to pre-COVID levels. But the number of buyers have actually dropped. So now it's becoming more of a what we call a buyer's market. So we had FOMO previously. Now you've got what we call FOOP, which is fear of overpaying. So you've got clients now coming in worried that they're going to overpay for a property. For me, this market is actually one of the better markets for a buyer. You've got choice. Two, you're not pressured to buy. You can take your time and do the due diligence and run through your numbers. Three, you're actually able to negotiate. Last year, it was the only offer you put in was your best and final. You didn't even, quite a lot of times you didn't even get a response. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners will know that, you would put an offer forward and you didn't even know whether you got it or not, because certain agents wouldn't even respond because they had just such an overwhelming number of offers. Where now you're able to negotiate. So, you can secure a property 5% below market value, or below what it would sell for last year. So there's opportunities for buyers. But what I do like to say to a lot of my buyers that I look for is, in this current market, there's going to be winners and losers. So you've just got to make sure that you arm yourself with the right data and the right team around you to be able to at least know that what you're buying is going to be a great long-term investment.
So with FOOP, fear
FOOP, yes.
overpaying,
fear of overpaying, yeah.
is that as well as interest rates and the increase in that and the potential continued increases? Is that part of that as well, that people know that the more they pay, the more they're going to pay back? Obviously, the interest rates are a lot higher than what they were.
Yeah, I've personally had a number of clients that unfortunately had their pre-approvals done prior to the interest rate rises, and obviously pre-approvals last for 90 days. And as we were getting close to purchasing, their pre-approval had been obviously reviewed and their borrowing capacity had been reviewed, because we've had 3 rate rises in the short space of time. So what I say to people is just make sure that your pre-approval is current. Make sure that it is that you check with your broker. Probably the biggest tip that I give my clients is build your team. Have your team of consultants around you that are going to help you. Make sure you've got a broker on side a mortgage broker that can help you with any of your financial questions that you need. Someone you can rely on. Make sure you've got the right conveyancing solicitor there that can support you through the process. Make sure that you've got, you understand, or use people that can help you understand who the right building and pest inspectors, or who the right inspectors that you can use are to help you, run through your due diligence. And for those that it works for, have a buyer's agent there to help you. We're there to work for you. We essentially don't work for the seller. Real estate agents work for the seller. Our job is to make sure that we get the best deal for our clients. And we want to make sure that those clients are long-term clients that, that essentially some people want to build portfolios of investments. So we want to make sure that we can help them grow and build those portfolios. It's not for us, it's not a one-off transaction. Yeah,
absolutely. What else do you think? And we're not going to hold you to it, obviously. But what else do you think might unfold over the next, say, 12 months in the property industry? Particularly around interest rates.
Yeah. So we're obviously, I've spoken to a number of banks, and everyone has their theory of what's going to happen. Personally, I think we'll see another rate rise before the end of the year, and then potentially there's talks that it'll hold steady for a period of time, and then middle to end of next year they're kind of predicting a small drop. in interest rates. Now, for Brisbane, we're in quite a unique position where you've got obviously the lowest vacancy rates we've seen in a long time. So, if you're an investor looking in Brisbane, you've got the lowest vacancy rates that have happened in a long time. Rent is increasing significantly. They're about to, obviously, we're going to get overseas migration is slowly growing, and we're getting more skilled migrants coming in, and we need that skilled labour to come in. So, obviously, we're going to see growth in population. We've got a major event coming up in the Olympics for Brisbane, which means the governments are spending quite a lot of, obviously, dollars on infrastructure around Brisbane. So make sure that you look at the right area, that will benefit. But on top of that, the approvals through councils have actually been down. So because of labour costs, because of material costs, new builds are not keeping up with the demand. So the level of approvals have been down, which means there's going to be more emphasis and more pressure on established properties. So we're in a kind of unique position, even though we're still seeing these rate rises. You've got rents that are increasing to kind of compensate for a portion of that. But also the demand is still high because, you've got the lowest vacancy rates we've had in a very long time, and you're seeing growth in population. So, my prediction is that Brisbane market won't see the decline like the other more mature markets like Sydney and Melbourne will. We will hold steady. And I think, as obviously rate rises tend to drop and potentially correct, I don't think it'll drop with inflation at where it is at the moment. I can't see interest rates dropping significantly, but as they hold steady, I think we'll see the Brisbane market continue to grow and grow again. And with obviously once the full announcement is done for all the infrastructure and spending from the local councils, then we'll see essentially further growth for certain suburbs.
And that'll push out to Southeast Queensland generally, I presume, as well.
Yeah,
the Olympics,
for sure. Definitely.
I'd forgotten about the Olympics.
Yeah.
You're here to remind me. Because, that's going to be a big thing from a property point of view.
It's a major event. Yeah.
So if someone was thinking, I want to start talking to Omar or any other buyer's agent for that matter, what's the sort of things that they should be, sort of getting ready, and what sort of critical thinking should they be doing before they come and speak to you?
Yeah, perfect. I think the first thing is just understand your position. So understand what your borrowing capacity is, understand what you're trying to achieve. Now we can help you with that strategy. And we can work with you to find exactly what you're trying to achieve. But are you looking for an investment with the option to actually add more down the track? Are you looking for just a one-off investment and essentially that's it? Are you looking to buy a house that you eventually want to move into? Are you downsizing? So understand what your strategy is, and make sure that you've consulted your financial broker to understand how much you can borrow, what your borrowing capacity is. So then once you come to me, we can sit down and work through your strategy and what would work best for you. What areas will suit you? What areas have higher capital growth? What areas have good rental returns, lower vacancy rates? And go through. If someone has $1 million budget, I would suggest a different area to someone who's got a $500,000 budget. Now, both areas are good. Both areas are great. They're both going to give you the right returns, but it's just it's just a completely different strategy, depending on what you're looking at. If you're looking at fast tracking your investments, we could potentially look at splitters, or we can look at potential properties for development, or look at dual occupancy, or there are other ways to invest to help accelerate your strategy. But it just depends on understanding what you're trying to achieve, and we can work with you on fine-tuning that strategy. But the biggest thing I say to people is please understand your financial position, because we're not financiers. We don't understand that. So I need to know what your borrowing capacity is and what you're comfortable with in repayments. So then we can start to work and come up with a plan on how you can maximize that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, good advice. So that was it for the questions that I had down that I wanted to talk to you about. So as I said at the beginning, the show's really about today about finding the right buyer's agent, what you need to look out for, which is exactly what you've explained. It's a big step. You want to make sure you've whatever investment is a good one, because our listeners are either advisors to the same people that you would act for, or property investors themselves. So everything you've said today has been invaluable, and as I said, we appreciate your time coming on to the show, and hope you enjoyed your time here with us. I know you've got a newborn boy called Kobe. Who are you at home, or are you in the office somewhere?
No, I'm in the office.
Yeah.
I'm in the office. Yeah, I think Kobe wouldn't give me the peace and quiet to be able to do this. He's craving attention at the moment. So, and it's hard not to give it to him. So, yeah.
Anything else you wanted to share before we sign off?
To be honest, the main thing I would like to share with people is just do your research. We've got a lot of tools out there. The internet is a wonderful thing. So just be informed and make sure that whoever you want to work with has your best interest at heart, and make sure that you feel comfortable with the person. There's a number of consultants out there. So, but no, I really appreciate you having me on, and it's been a pleasure chatting to you.
Absolutely. So we will share all your details, Omar, email address, etc., if anyone wants to get in touch with you. So it's Omar, Brisbane Buyers Agent at the Property Buyer Team. Also, for our listeners, if you do like the podcast, particularly the one with Omar in it, then please rate and review the podcast through whatever platform you're getting this from. Like SMS Law Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, search us on LinkedIn. We're on all the social media platforms, and do the same for Omar, because we share other information throughout the time outside of the podcast that's valuable to our stakeholders and clients. So jump on and do that, and we'll be back again next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.